Now he wants 50-50 time with them? Well, hell, he could have had 50-50 time with us the whole time we lived here.
Hello everyone. Something shifted in season 20, and if you were watching closely, you felt it too. Meri Brown didn't just talk about forgiveness this time, she faced it, but what she said, and more importantly, what she didn't say, revealed a truth that left even the production crew silent. For years, fans believed her tension with Meri Brown was about old wounds, small betrayals, or just personality differences. But this season, Meri finally dropped her guard, and what came out was something no one saw coming. It started quietly, almost tenderly. Meri sat in her confessional chair, her hair down, her hands trembling just a little. "I've tried," she said, her voice steady but tight. "I've tried to move on, to forgive Meri, to see her differently, but..." She stopped there. That pause, that tiny silence, spoke louder than anything she said afterward. "Some things," she finally added, "don't heal when someone says sorry. Some things don't even start to." From that moment, everything changed. Viewers saw a crack in Meri's usual warmth. Her smile faltered. Her tone sharpened when Meri's name came up. And in one scene, one that TLC barely aired, Meri's body language told the whole story. When Meri walked into the room, Meri instinctively stepped back, just half a step. But it was enough. Enough to tell the audience this wasn't about old drama. This was about something that had never truly ended. Insiders say producers debated whether to include the full footage, because behind the cameras, something else happened. After that confessional, Meri reportedly asked to take a short break. She left her mic on the table and walked out to her car. When a crew member followed her, she said quietly, "They think it's about the catfishing. It's not. It's something she said to me years before that, something I can't unhear." No one knows exactly what that comment was, not yet, but the tension has always been there, lingering beneath every smile and reunion. And if you go back to the early seasons, when Meri would laugh, but her eyes never really softened toward Meri, you'll see it, that pattern, that discomfort, something that felt like hurt dressed as politeness. In season 20, though, it finally boiled over. It was during one of those awkward family sit-downs that Cody insisted they have his healing session, as he called it. The wives sat in a loose circle, trying to look supportive, but the air was thick. Cody started by saying, "I think we should all talk about what forgiveness really means." Meri nodded, too quickly. Meri didn't move. Her hands were clasped tightly in her lap. When Cody asked if there was anything left unspoken, Meri looked directly at Meri and said, "I think we both know what that means." The silence that followed could have shattered glass. Meri blinked, forcing a smile. "I'm not sure what you're referring to," she said, but her voice wavered. Meri leaned forward. "You remember?" she said softly, and then she stopped herself. She looked straight at the producer off camera and said, "You'll cut this, right?" But they didn't cut it. They kept rolling. That's when things took a strange turn. The camera zoomed in just slightly. You could see the emotion flicker in both women's faces. Meri's eyes darted down. Her jaw clenched. Meri, on the other hand, looked calm, too calm. "You've already said sorry," she said quietly, "but you never admitted what it was you were sorry for." Viewers didn't get the full moment. TLC edited it down to a simple "we've had our differences" soundbite. But according to a production assistant who was on set that day, the raw exchange went deeper, personal, specific, and painfully revealing. The crew reportedly stopped filming for nearly an hour afterward to give the women space. And yet, despite the tension, something about Meri's demeanor that day hinted that she was finally done carrying the weight. She told the camera later, "Forgiveness isn't always peace. Sometimes it's realizing you can live without it." But the story didn't end there. Later that week, a producer noticed Meri sitting outside during a night shoot, the lights from Flagstaff twinkling behind her. They asked her if she thought she and Meri would ever repair things. Meri smiled faintly and said, "I think forgiveness happens when both people want to tell the truth." Meri hasn't told hers yet. That's when one of the sound crew members whispered something that changed the mood completely. "What truth?" he asked quietly. Meri looked up, her eyes serious. "The one that never made it to air," she said. The next day, TLC reportedly called an emergency meeting. But what could be so heavy, so damaging, that even after years of public family breakdowns, Meri still couldn't let it go? What did Meri say all those years ago that made forgiveness impossible? As the season progresses, small hints begin to surface, moments that seem harmless until you connect them. A glance here, a nervous laugh there, Cody's sudden attempt to change the topic whenever Meri and Meri share the frame. It's all pointing towards something buried deep. And then, in a late-night segment, Christine drops one final line that sends shivers down every fan's spine. "You can't forgive someone," she says, "when you know they meant it." But what exactly did Meri mean? The answer, it seems, is still hidden, waiting to surface in the next episode, the one TLC has been teasing as the moment that changes everything. Because according to a source close to production, there's footage from a private conversation between Christine and Meri filmed years ago that never aired. And now, season 20 might finally reveal it. What was said that day could rewrite everything fans think they know about their friendship, and maybe the entire family's story. So what did Meri say that Christine could never forgive? We'll find out soon. But what Christine does next will change the way fans see both women, forever. The sun was setting over Flagstaff, and Christine was standing near the back patio, arms folded tight, watching the light fade behind the mountains. It was quiet, except for the hum of a mic still clipped to her jacket. A producer asked softly, "Do you want to keep going?" Christine didn't answer right away. Then she nodded, exhaling. "Yeah, because if I don't say it now, I'll never say it." The footage picks up right there. You can hear the rawness in her voice, the kind that doesn't come from anger but exhaustion. "Everyone thought it was just about Meri being cold," she began, "but it was deeper than that. She said something to me once that changed how I saw her forever." She paused, rubbing her arm as if trying to hold herself together. It wasn't during a fight, it was quiet, casual, and that's what made it worse. Insiders say that moment goes back to the early Flagstaff years, before the separations, before the cameras stopped pretending everyone got along. Christine had gone to Meri's house to talk about something small, a family schedule, a dinner plan, but somehow, the conversation turned personal. "We were talking about my kids," Christine said, "and she just looked at me and said something that made me feel like I wasn't even part of the family. Like I was an outsider playing pretend." She never repeated the exact words on camera, not yet, but the hurt was visible in her eyes. "It's strange," she whispered. "You think you've heard it all, but then someone finds the one thing that hits you where it still hurts." The next day, during filming, Meri tried to downplay the tension. "I think Christine misinterprets things sometimes," she said with a practiced smile. "We all have bad moments, but that was years ago." When the producer asked if she remembered what she said, Meri hesitated. "Not exactly," she replied. "It's been a long time." But off camera, one crew member claims Meri's tone changed completely. She said, "I know exactly what I said, and she knows why." That clip never made it to air, until now. What fans didn't see in earlier seasons was how those little moments built up like cracks in glass. Every misunderstanding, every awkward silence, every look Christine avoided, it all pointed back to that same fracture. "Forgiveness doesn't work," Christine said in another scene. "Not when someone won't admit what they did. I tried to forgive her for years. But it's hard to forgive something someone swears never happened." The emotional fallout didn't stay between the two of them. Janelle later admitted she noticed it too. "They'd be in the same room and the air would change," she said. "It wasn't hate, it was tension, unresolved, constant." Even Robin, who usually avoided taking sides, told producers she could feel the wall between them. "Meri tried to act like it wasn't there," she said. Christine just stopped pretending. Then came the turning point, a dinner scene filmed midway through the season. The wives had gathered at Robin's house, cameras rolling, to talk about healing the past. It started off polite, almost forced. But when Meri raised her glass and said, "To forgiveness," Christine didn't move. She stared at her plate, her jaw tightening. "I can't toast to that," she said quietly. The table went silent. Meri forced a laugh, asking, "Why not?" Christine looked up, and her eyes were wet, not from sadness but clarity. "Because forgiveness isn't real when the truth is still a lie." The room froze. Even Cody didn't interrupt, he just shifted uncomfortably, eyes darting toward the cameras, as if he knew exactly what she meant and wanted it buried. Later that night, producers found Christine outside again, sitting by the fire pit with her microphone still on. She said softly, almost to herself, "People think forgiveness means pretending it didn't happen. I don't want to pretend anymore." Then she added something that sent chills through the production room when they reviewed the footage. "She didn't just hurt me, she hurt one of my kids too." That single sentence changed everything. The editors paused the tape. The executive producer reportedly said, "We can't air that unless she explains what she means." So the next day, they asked her. Christine just smiled sadly and said, "Not yet, but when it comes out, you'll understand why I couldn't forgive her." Behind the scenes, TLC started rearranging episode sequences, deciding what to show and what to cut. But word of that one sentence, "She hurt one of my kids too," spread fast among the crew. A few people started whispering that it might explain why Christine had always been so fiercely protective, why she distanced herself long before the divorce, and why she looked so calm after walking away. And while no one on record confirmed what happened, one thing became clear. This wasn't about old grudges or jealousy. It was about trust that had been broken in a way cameras were never meant to capture. Now the question everyone's asking, what did Meri do that Christine still can't speak out loud? Because according to a recent teaser for the next episode, the answer might finally come, and when it does, it could change everything we thought we knew about sister wives. But before Christine reveals the full truth, one final conversation takes place, one that no one expected, not even the producers, and it starts with a single text message Meri sends late at night. It was just after midnight when Christine's phone buzzed. The rest of the house was dark, the only light coming from the dim glow of her phone screen. She hesitated before picking it up. The name flashing across the top made her chest tighten. It was Meri for a moment. Christine thought about ignoring it, but curiosity won. She opened the message. It read, "You know, I never meant to hurt you. Maybe it's time we talk." Simple, calm, but there was something off about it, something that didn't feel like an apology, more like a test. The next morning, Christine told producers she had received the message. They asked if she was going to respond. She smiled faintly and said, "Not yet. She's not ready to hear what I have to say." Later that week, production arranged for another family sit-down, this time in neutral territory, a cozy rented cabin outside of Flagstaff. The setting was meant to feel intimate, safe, maybe even healing. But as soon as Meri walked in, the temperature dropped. Christine didn't look at her. Cody looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. And the cameras, already rolling, caught every flicker of emotion. Meri broke the silence first. "Christine," she began carefully. "I sent you a message. Did you see it?" Christine nodded, eyes steady. "I did." And Meri's tone was hopeful, nervous, rehearsed. Christine took a breath. "You said you never meant to hurt me." She paused, choosing her words like someone carefully dismantling a bomb. "But that's not the part that I can't forgive. It's that you knew you did, and you let me question myself for years." Meri's smile faded. "That's not fair," she whispered. Christine tilted her head slightly, voice calm. "Maybe not, but it's true." The tension was so thick you could almost feel the crew holding their breath. Meri looked at Cody, searching for backup, but he stayed silent. Christine continued, voice soft but cutting. "You told me once I was too emotional to be trusted. You said my version of things was always exaggerated. You said my feelings were unstable." She stopped there, her eyes glassy. "And you said it in front of my daughter." The room went still. Even Cody looked shocked. "She was 12, Christine said, her voice breaking slightly. "You looked at her and said, 'Your mom likes to make drama where there isn't any.' Do you know what that did to her? She stopped coming to me about her feelings for years because she thought she'd be a burden." Meri looked down at her hands. "I don't even remember saying that," she murmured. Christine nodded slowly. "I know, you don't remember because it didn't matter to you, but it mattered to me, and it broke something I couldn't fix." The camera zoomed in as a tear rolled down Christine's cheek. Not dramatic, not forced. Just quiet heartbreak. After a long pause, Meri whispered, "I was hurting too." Christine looked at her for the first time in minutes. "Then you should have come to me, not taken it out on a child." That was the line that shattered whatever fragile piece had been left. Meri's eyes filled with tears, but Christine didn't flinch. The years of silence, distance, and buried resentment had finally surfaced, raw, unfiltered, undeniable. When filming wrapped for the day, Christine walked outside again. The cameras followed her as she stood near the trees, breathing deeply. "People think forgiveness is about letting go," she said quietly, "but sometimes it's about realizing who doesn't deserve your silence anymore." It was from Janelle, the text read. "I think there's more to what she said than we all realized. There's something you should see." Christine didn't respond immediately, but the way her face changed, the flicker of curiosity mixed with apprehension, told everyone that whatever Janelle was talking about wasn't just gossip, it was evidence. Something that could prove that Christine's pain wasn't just emotional memory, but fact. Later that day, Christine drove out to meet Janelle, away from the cameras. She told the crew they could film from a distance, but not record audio when they returned. Both women looked pale but determined. "We found something," Janelle told the producers. "And it explains a lot," Christine nodded, holding a small envelope. "This is why I couldn't forgive her," she said softly, "because deep down, I think she never wanted me here in the first place." And then she added, almost under her breath, "Now I can prove it." The episode ends with the camera focusing on the envelope in Christine's hands, worn edges, a faint TLC logo in the corner. Inside that envelope is the truth Christine says will finally end years of denial. But what's inside it? And how could it possibly connect to Mari after all this time? If you followed this story from the beginning, you know something big is coming. Because according to production insiders, that envelope doesn't just hold a note, it holds proof. Christine sat in her kitchen the next morning, coffee untouched, the envelope resting on the table like it was breathing. The camera crew had set up quietly, no one daring to break the silence. You could feel it. The anticipation, the fear, the weight of years about to come undone. Janelle sat across from her, hands clasped, eyes fixed on that small, creased envelope. "You don't have to open it on camera," she said gently. Christine smiled weakly. "I think I do." She slid her finger under the seal and pulled out a few folded papers, old, yellowed at the edges, the ink slightly smudged. "These were notes from a production meeting," Christine whispered. "Back when we first started filming," she glanced at Janelle. "They weren't supposed to leave the studio, but someone kept copies." She unfolded the first page. The sound of the paper crackling was the only thing anyone could hear. The note was short, typed, and brutally clear. Christine read aloud softly, almost in disbelief. Segment suggestion. Focus Meri as leader archetype. Position Christine as emotional contrast, she said, showing the paper to the camera. "They planned it. The tension between us wasn't just real, it was designed." Janelle leaned forward, whispering, "They used you both." Christine nodded slowly, and she believed it. She played that role so deeply she started to think I really was the problem. The realization landed like thunder. The years of forced interactions, the constant comparisons, the moments that felt too perfectly timed for television, all of it suddenly made sense. But it didn't erase the pain. "I could have forgiven her if it had just been about words," Christine said softly. "But she let the cameras define who I was to her. She chose the show over the truth." The room was still then, almost reluctantly. Christine unfolded the second page. It wasn't typed. It was handwritten. The writing was neat, careful, and unmistakably familiar. It was Meri's handwriting. Christine's voice caught as she read. "If she wants to be seen as the heart of this family, she has to stop being so needy. She drains the energy out of every scene. Maybe if she focused less on playing, mom to everyone and more on listening, she'd understand why Cody doesn't take her seriously." Her hands began to shake. "That's what she said about me," Christine whispered. "To production. About me." Janelle looked like she wanted to reach across the table, but Christine just stared at the letter. "She didn't say it to my face," Christine said, her tone flat. "She said it to them. About me, while I was trying to make it all work." A long pause followed, then Christine said almost to herself, "That's why I couldn't forgive her." Not because of what she said in the moment, but because she kept performing the friendship long after she decided I was the problem. The crew didn't move. They just filmed as Christine slowly folded the papers back into the envelope. Hands steady again now. "You can't forgive someone who benefited from your pain," she said quietly. "You can only let them go." Later that day, Meri was called in for a private interview. She didn't know about the envelope yet. When producers asked her what she thought of Christine's claim that forgiveness wasn't possible, she smiled tightly. "I think Christine wants to hold on to anger," she said. "That's her choice. But I've moved on." The producer hesitated, then asked, "What if she has proof?" Meri frowned. "Proof of what?" They slid the envelope toward her. She didn't touch it. "What's that?" she asked, voice wary. "Something Christine wanted you to see." She finally picked it up, opening it carefully. The moment her eyes landed on the handwriting, her face changed. Her expression fell, confusion, then fear, then quiet resignation. "Where did she get this?" she whispered. The producer didn't answer. Meri folded the paper again and pressed it against her chest. "That was years ago," she said shakily. "I didn't mean it like that. We were all under pressure. They asked questions. They wanted drama." She looked up, her eyes red. "It was supposed to be private." When they told Christine later that Meri had seen the letter, she didn't smile. "Good," she said softly. "Now she knows I remember." That night, Meri reportedly sent Christine another message, but this one was different. The words were simple, almost pleading. "You don't understand what they made us do. I wasn't the only one." Christine didn't respond, but the next morning she told producers, "She's right. She wasn't the only one, but that doesn't make it okay." And here's where things get darker. According to an insider from the editing team, Christine wasn't done revealing things. She told production there was more, something that explained why forgiveness was never an option, something she'd kept private until now. The editor who reviewed that footage said it was the most emotional thing ever filmed for the show, but TLC hasn't released it yet, because what Christine said next wasn't just about her and Meri, it involved someone else. Someone who still doesn't know they're about to be named, and that's where everything changes. Christine sat alone on her porch that evening, the envelope gone, the air thick with everything she'd just unleashed. The crew had been dismissed hours ago, but one camera still rolled quietly from a distance. She stared out into the dark, the sound of crickets filling the silence. "I always thought the hardest part would be forgiving her," she said softly, "but the hardest part was realizing she wasn't alone." The words lingered like smoke. When she finally looked up, her eyes were tired but calm. "That letter wasn't the whole story," she continued. "It was just the beginning of one." She reached down beside her and picked up a second envelope, one no one had seen before, sealed, newer, her name written on the front in careful handwriting. "This one," she whispered, "came last week." The camera zoomed slightly as she opened it. Inside wasn't a note. It was a photo, an old production still from years earlier. It showed Meri sitting beside Cody, whispering something to him while Christine looked away, smiling politely. On the back of the photo, written in the same neat handwriting, were 7 words. "It was never just between you two." Christine froze. She flipped the photo over again, looking at it closely. "That's her handwriting," she murmured. "But why send this now?" According to a source close to production, that photo was mailed anonymously to TLC headquarters before being forwarded to Christine. No one knows who sent it, but the timing, just after the envelope reveal, felt too deliberate to be random. Later that week, Janelle stopped by to check on her. Christine showed her the photo, sliding it across the table. "What does that mean?" Janelle asked, eyes narrowing. Christine's voice was quiet, trembling just enough to betray her. "It means what I always suspected," she said. "There were conversations happening about me, about my place in the family, that I was never meant to hear about. And Meri wasn't the only one saying those things." She leaned back, her gaze distant. "When I said forgiveness wasn't possible, I wasn't talking about one person. I was talking about all of it. The years of being edited into a role, the stories being twisted for television, the private words that became plot lines." Her tone hardened. "They built a show out of our pain, and then they called it love." Janelle's eyes softened. "Are you saying Cody?" Christine interrupted her. "I'm saying it didn't start with Meri, it ended with her." She stood up and walked to the window. The North Carolina air was thick and humid, the sky an orange, pink blur. "When I left, I thought I was walking away from heartbreak, but I was walking away from an illusion." She turned back toward Janelle, her voice lower. "And now, someone wants me to remember that illusion never really ended." As the sun dipped below the trees, the camera caught a final close-up, Christine's hand holding the photo, her thumb brushing over the handwritten line again and again. "It was never just between you two." Fans online have already started speculating. Some believe the message came from Meri herself, a strange guilt-driven attempt at closure. Others think it came from someone inside production, hinting that there's a deeper manipulation behind the family's collapse. But one theory has spread faster than all the others, that someone in the family is still in contact with TLC, and still protecting secrets no one else knows. Christine's final words to the camera that night sent chills through everyone who heard them. "I used to think the truth was something you searched for. Now I think it's something you survive." She smiled faintly, though her eyes said otherwise. "And if this photo is what I think it is, I'm not the only one who has to survive it." Her expression changed instantly, half fear, half disbelief. She picked it up, stared for a moment, then whispered, "You shouldn't be calling me." The phone stayed pressed to her ear, her face unreadable. Then, click, the line went dead. Christine sat still for a long time, the phone still in her hand, the weight of something unspoken hanging heavy in the air. Finally, she whispered, almost to herself, "So, it was true." The screen faded completely to black, and just before the credits rolled, one final line appeared on screen. White text against the dark. "Next time, the truth about who called her will change everything." If you've been following this story from the beginning, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell, because what happens next will rewrite the story of sister wives forever. The secret Christine just uncovered isn't the last one, it's the first.